So welcome everybody. My name is Sean Cullen Carroll, and you are watching the pilot episode, the first of many episodes of Business Lunatics. So what is Business Lunatics? This is the LinkedIn live show where four entrepreneurs, we're going to spill the unfiltered truth about what it really takes to build a business. None of the sugar-coated stuff. We're talking about the sleepless nights, getting punched in the face, just kicked over and over and over again, all the risks that we take, the moments that make you question your sanity, and then we wake up tomorrow and do it all over again. So if you've ever been called crazy for chasing your dreams, you're in the right place. This is going to be raw. It's going to be real. We don't know what we're going to talk about. We have some ideas, of course, but it's just meant to be a real conversation about entrepreneurship, business, and what it really takes to be in business today and why we are crazy enough to continue to do it. So welcome, everybody. I'm going to give everybody a chance to say hello. I'm joined here by my friends, Melih, Steve, and Rochelle. So hi, everybody. Welcome.
So good being here. Hi, everyone.
Yeah, so this is such a model of what entrepreneurship is. I mean, we've had many meetings planning this, talking about this in terms of taking it from the idea to where we are today.
It's taken 3 months, just so you
yeah,
know,
it really has. And finally, I think we all came to the agreement. You know what? We need to launch this thing, and then we're going to keep making it better.
We'll
so
fix it later. We'll fix it later.
Fix it later. Fix it later.
That's an entrepreneur right there.
That is total entrepreneurship. So I figure there's a lot of topics that I know we're going to move into, but I thought what better way to start than actually talk about what we're actually doing here and what we've actually worked through ourselves to get this thing live and launched. Because I think so many entrepreneurs either don't start or don't scale or don't move. And on one hand, I heard us all we wanted it to be the best it could be, but also, I think for a lot of entrepreneurs, they don't want to put something out that isn't perfect or isn't right because they're afraid of, what others might think of it or that it's going to not work. So I just thought we'd open up the floor to talk about that, whether it's with what we put together here or what you went through starting your own business. So
and just so you guys know, I tried working on this almost a year ago with a different team. And, going to what you just said, Sean, it was exactly that. It was, one, the lack of commitment. Right? It's like, if you're going to do a podcast, you're going to do a show, you have to have some level of commitment. Otherwise, nobody's going to continue listening to you. Right. And that commitment has to be at least once a week, minimal, right? I mean, if you want to go more, that's great, but once a week is a minimum. And then the other part is this idea that, we have to have all these different things done before we can go live. And I'm like, I think the audience is more interested in the down-to-earth approach.
Wait, see my background? Is that what they're interested in seeing what I created?
There he is.
Come on, there it is.
He's on the LinkedIn event. He is our official logo at this moment. So.
Yes.
So anyway,
you are correct.
My point. I'm in total agreement with what we're doing here. We've tried to get it off the ground a few times for one reason or another in terms of everybody's schedules, and then we had a technology issue in the last week that Sean did a phenomenal job troubleshooting and ultimately figured it out. No, I'm glad we were able to finally start this thing, honestly.
I want to chime in. I really believe that in business, my philosophy has always been ready, fire, aim. If I was to wait for everything to literally line up, you kidding? It would never happen. I think perfectionism is a hallucination. It doesn't take place. I mean, if you do one thing, you finally figure one thing out, you turn around, there's 4 others that kind of creep up before you know it. So for me, it's ready, fire, aim. I don't think there's anything that can come up that as I continue moving forward, I can't course correct. And I can never always, imagine every imaginable slip up. But as I know, if I can course correct it, or more important, we have a team that can support us in course correcting. And that's what I'd like us all to think about. What's the team in your life? Because team is all about 1 + 1. It doesn't equal 2. It doesn't equal 3. 1 + 1 is an 11. The right team is going to pull us into an arena that we can't get to on our own. And this is a perfect example. If Sean would not be able to figure out a lot of this technology, we'd all be sitting here, twiddling our thumbs. So again, who's in your life, in your business, in your team, so that you can have the ability to make a mistake, that you can feel that you'll get stuck, but you continue to move forward under any circumstance.
Yeah, you keep moving.
Yeah,
keep moving.
Fast
I'd
forward.
like to just chime in just a little bit on that because it brings me to entrepreneurship and delegation. But, if you can get something 80% good enough and start it, just get it started. The other 20%, you'll get to it, you'll refine it, you'll reiterate it. And, it goes to delegation. A lot of people and entrepreneurs, when they start, you're wearing 80 million hats, right? You're doing billing and you're doing marketing and sales and collections and, everything else, development, everything else you could figure out. But once you start getting a little bit bigger and you learn how, if you delegate some of that stuff, even if it's only 80% as good as you would do it, that's 80% of your time back on that object or that project.
Yeah. This
Agree.
reminds me, since it's our first episode, I can put links to everybody's websites and LinkedIn's in the comments of this, wherever you're watching it. But I think what would be cool is if we just did like 15 seconds. I would love to know the total number of years that you've been in business for yourself, self-employed entrepreneur, however you define it. So total number of years for you. And then just like a quick 10, 15 seconds of who you help and what you do, I think would give some context to everybody. I don't want to get too far into the episode without people realizing who they're listening to. So I'm Sean Colin Carroll. I've been an entrepreneur for 21 years. And what we do is my wife and I place human resources professionals inside of startup companies on a fractional basis to give them just the HR that they need at that moment and that can grow with their needs. So that's me. 21 years. Who's next?
Cool.
Wow.
I'll go with me. I'm 38 years into business.
Okay.
Started in 87, started the internet group in 94. So it's been a really long ride in digital marketing for sure. I've got a team of 25. We got creative, we got marketing, we got tech, we got writers. Everybody's in Detroit. One person's out east. And our target audience is B2B companies, manufacturing, industrial, technology, consulting firms, that type of space.
Awesome. 38 plus 21. Who's next?
Okay, I can kick in. It's Rochelle from Dynamic Business Growth. And I always say it's dynamic business growth and not like, schlep along business growth. And I love working with small companies because I always say ideas are a dime a dozen. It's implementation that's priceless. And an idea without implementation, I call a hallucination. And I work with some of the most amazing small business owners because they hallucinate. They've got to get some major initiatives over the finish line. So it's all about business growth. And I approach it from different arenas. And I cannot believe that it is possible that I am doing this for like 17 years. It's like one hot chew, one sneeze, and 17 years has gone by.
Wow. Awesome. Steve,
Well,
how are you?
that makes me the old man of the group because I started in 1986. After I got out of the Marine Corps, I started my first IT company in 1986. I built, bought, and sold 7 tech companies since then. I am now currently a certified scaling up business executive coach, as well as I'm a certified chief AI officer and prompt expert. And I basically help low mid-market to mid-market companies and small companies as well grow and scale their business, but using the advent of AI to do it better, faster, smarter.
I love it. So that's 115 years of combined entrepreneurial experience in this Foursquare right here. And I put the view on Foursquare just for the introduction so everybody can see each other. I think I'm going to switch it back to speaker view so everybody can see that at some point, but pretty incredible. And it's 115 years of experience and we were how many emails went back and forth to get this thing live today?
Oh, man, I can't even count. How many emails did I get while we started this?
Jeez, I mean, but the key is like it's up, right? We're doing it. So yeah, like
even more than that. It's the whole concept of never give up.
Yeah.
There's a way out. There's a way out. There's a way forward, and the only way you'll find that way forward is if you have it in your DNA. Never give up. Never give up. If it's not one day, 2 days, but just keep, if you keep plodding along, the chances of something presenting itself that you can course correct, that you can solve is 100%. But you need to have that conviction, because let me tell you, I think all of us had the opportunity of giving up, like what, 3 times a day? I mean, let's not talk about over the course of many years. Each day we get hit with something. It's like, you know what, I've had it. And that's what Sean says, we've had it, we're going to throw in the towel.
God.
done, and then we get up and do it again tomorrow. So again, it's that concept of never give up.
I think you said something very poignant, Rochelle, is that if you put yourself out there, good things will come your way. And people hear about The Secret, if you've ever read the book or watched the movie. The secret isn't really a secret. It's just putting yourself in enough good situations, getting back up, having resilience to continuously have the right mindset, continuously try again. I mean, I'll be honest, I'm 100% unemployable. That's all there is to it. I cannot work for somebody else. I just who I am. And that means that I have to accept the fact that I can't let people define who I am. I have to go out and keep doing it over and over and get up the next day, like we said, do it all over again.
It's all about action versus inaction, right? If you're going to sit around being passive, you're not going to get anywhere. You have to you got to be actively moving. Okay. And I think the best example I have is the financial crisis back in 08, 09, and 10. We're in the Detroit metro area as a marketing agency, Smart Finds. And on the flip side of the coin, I shouldn't say the flip side of the coin, but Detroit was ground zero. You had the big three automakers declare bankruptcy, going to the government for funding. And with that, they were shoveling people out of Michigan at the time. Well, how easy would it be to just say, I'm done?
Sure.
Right? I didn't do that. We kept going. Because guess what? All of these large corporations that we were doing business with, in the Southeast Michigan area, when they all started coming back to the market towards the end of Q4 2010, well, guess what they did? They called us.
Of course.
What? And if the phones were dead, what were they going to do? They're going to find somebody else.
Right. They still need
right?
service,
Right. And they did call. They called.
That reminds me of like when in 2008, same time, I had a coach tell me I had real estate brokerage at the time, and the realtors were panicking because everybody was rich for a while, and then all of a sudden transactions went to zero. And so all he kept telling us, this was somebody that had done hundreds of millions of dollars worth of deals. He just said, your goal right now is to stay in business. Right. Stay in business. I don't care how many deals you do. I don't care what your revenues are right now.
Right.
You stay in business during the worst of it right now. When this thing passes, and by the way, it will pass because it always does. If you're there, it's a matter of who's left. And so this brings up a lot of other business things like having runway and capital and all that. I'm sure we'll get into in this show, but the fear in those moments is pretty ridiculous because you don't think it's going to end. Like in the moment, you're like, "Oh, this is the new normal." So, Melih,
panic.
Exactly, panic. Like, what was when everything was first happening, Melih? Like, I'm sure like your mindset was always like, "Let's figure it out." But can you talk about kind of the fear that was in that environment, either for you or just in Detroit during that time? Because I think a lot of people watch.
Yeah. And I mean, the fear that you're going through is that, for me, it wasn't about the fear of shutting the company down. That wasn't even an option. That's not going to happen.
That's
right?
the main thing that you're saying. It wasn't an option.
An option.
Part one. Just declaring that it's not an option.
Right. So you start with that premise. Then the other side of the equation is we never went to zero, but I did have to let a large portion of our team go that we had so well trained. We all were working together for multiple years, et cetera, et cetera. Believe me, that's the part
you
that
just feel bad. You just feel horrible.
You feel bad, right? But at the same time,
families.
I was pissed. Okay. And I was looking for some way to hang, because it's one thing if I, as the business owner, make a decision and we tank. It's another thing when it's coming from thousands of miles away from me and I had nothing to do with it. That threw me over the edge. And it's possible that anger kept me going too. That's another story. But if you think about the fear factor is actually on a more personal level. Your income goes down. You can't pay your mortgage. You can't go to the grocery store and buy things or what you would normally buy, right? All of a sudden you're going, you're moving in a direction of using your savings account, not paying being able to pay your mortgages and your electric bills and so on and so forth. That's a different story now, right? Because you're not used to that. So the real question is how quickly can you adapt? That was the question. Because you had to adapt to the current environment that you're in, number one. And number two, well, the other thing is you have to accept it. This is where my 4 A's come into play. I always talk about anticipate change, accept change, adapt, change, and adopt, right? But so in this scenario, you had to say, I have to accept where I'm at. And the other thing is you got to tell everybody out there that wants money from you, whether it's the mortgages, the electricity companies, and whatever else is. Guess what? I don't care.
Don't have it ain't
How
coming
about,
right
how
now.
about payroll? How about
happening,
payroll?
okay?
Payroll taxes, or your filing taxes. I mean, all that stuff.
Right.
The
And
government
guess
still
what?
wants their
I
money.
didn't pay my taxes.
Yeah, but you got
I got it.
employees, and I think I felt bad during those times that I had to let people go. And there were some times when I was first a young company with like 4 employees. I'd be like, "Look, I can't pay this week. The money should be here. This guy's promised he's going to pay us. We have the receivables; they're coming." But I was a small 3-4 person company, and I didn't like to have to do that. But I many times didn't take a paycheck when I first started.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it happens,
To
right?
being
It
an
happens when
entrepreneur.
you own it. Yep. It's
Rochelle,
just
I
part of the
know,
world.
Rochelle, I know you have a story or two about going through some of these similar types of crises. Anything you want to share from your perspective on those?
God, there are times that you go through these crises, and I feel that I've got like I almost feel that I need a Valium drip, just like hook it up for me and let me walk around with that thing on the thing and walk around the house. Absolutely. Are you kidding? I mean, sometimes it's like you're in business Monday and then something does happen, like you're claiming 2008. We can all talk about just recently, just COVID. What happened with
Yeah.
that? And in hindsight, we can just turn around and say, we're warriors that we surpass. I mean, fast forward 40 years, the youth at that time is going to say there was such a thing as COVID. It's like when people say, there was a plague in the 1908 or whatever. You don't realize it. But even then, I mean, the nerve is like, where's the next client coming in? Am I going to be able to? And then fill in the blank. You could just say, and here's the thing with all of that, and this is what I'm pretty careful with. When we're at a challenging time, we start going down a really negative path and we start saying, oh my God, what's the worst that can happen? And I don't know about you, but I've got an amazing imagination. So I start thinking of, not just the worst. It's like poker. I see you worst and I raise you a tragedy. I see your tragedy and I raise you, like an epic disaster. So by the end
Perfect.
of the day, I mean, my imagination can make a Stephen King novel look like, CJ and Run. And then I had to literally force myself to say stop and turn it around and ask myself what's the best that can happen. Because I'm in business for the best that can happen. The best that can happen is I love making that impact on clients. I love knowing that if I work with a small business, they support their employees, they support their community, and I love being part of that ripple effect. So I had to like literally say, stop scaring the shit out of yourself. Stop. And let's just look what's the best that can happen. And that can happen like a small step at a time. And I
Yeah.
do to this day because it happens all the time.
It's about what we're focusing on. Like both, if we're making up a story, we can make up the opposite story. So we might as well.
Neither one of them is true. I mean,
Yeah.
this disaster that I'm creating isn't true. So let me at least make up something that's positive
Yeah.
that can move me forward, that I can, I'm
So,
excited to live into.
Dan,
Guys, there's something that you guys are conceptually that I want to raise here. This is really interesting. I mean, part of it, considering our age range here, part of it is also we grew up with this idea that if you do something wrong, it's going to go in your permanent record.
Yeah, you're it's going to follow you for 50 years. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Right.
The
And so-
permanent
We
record
also were
found out
supposed to
there's no
retire
such
at
thing.
55.
So
Remember, that was the retirement age. So
I honestly didn't think about it until we were just talking, but in my humble opinion, rule number one as an entrepreneur, don't worry about your permanent record.
There's no permanent record. It does not.
There's
I remember the
nobody
day that I
cares.
found out, like I remember because I got in trouble, a little bit in school. And I remember getting called in. I was like in 7th grade Catholic school. And I'm sitting in the principal's office and she's like, so do you know why you're here? And I'm like, yeah, I did this in class. And she's like, she gave me my punishment and I said, is this going to go on my permanent record? And she was kind of a new principal. And she's like, what are you talking about? And she was newer and kind of younger. And I said, the permanent record. She's like, like, really, what do you mean? I'm
What
like,
is that?
like the thing, you know, that thing that you guys keep, you and the nuns. I'm like, you and the nuns have this thing. It's all written down somewhere, and you're telling, like, God has access to it. That one.
No.
And she's like, she's like, you're gonna get a punishment for this thing, but you know, there's no, like, I don't. She was really confused.
Yeah,
That's
but
great.
we were ingrained with this
Oh
permanent
man,
record.
yeah, totally.
Honestly, you know,
Yeah.
you're in elementary school, you're
It's
like
like
in
you never
whatever
can
second
recover
or
from it.
third grade, right?
Yeah, it's like
You
something
gotta
you can
I
realize the
have this
most
permanent
important
record.
thing I think that we're saying is that we can recover from anything.
recover. Absolutely, yeah. Like,
Recovery is
I was going to say Dan Sullivan, who is the owner of the Strategic Coach. He's a business entrepreneur coach. I've spent 13 years. I probably should go back again because Lord knows I can always use a coach. Every coach should have a coach. But he
sure.
would talk about falling into the gap. And the gap, and also Benjamin Hardy would talk about it. There's a book called The Gap of the Game. And it's all about you're constantly heading towards this goal you're trying to get to, whether it's to make your first. I remember saying, wow, if I could hit $100,000, wow, I really made it. Man, if I could make $125,000, I'm really cooking, to the point where it got to be, I want to do 125 grand a month, not just in a year. But if you don't stop and take a look back and realize how far you've come and what you've accomplished already, it's hard to keep that energy to keep moving forward towards these goals. And Rochelle, you're 1,000% correct. You got to have the right mindset. And the mindset is that I know it's going to be long and a hard road, but I'm going to continue to get up and not let the world define me and go after my goals and keep reaching for that horizon.
I'm going to piggyback on what you just said. Yeah, we make mistakes, but here's the key: we don't acknowledge to the greatest extent our victories. Because they come
And
somewhat.
we should.
We're all very talented in what we do. So what we do on a day to day, it's like, I've changed that years ago. I decided that I'm keeping a victory log. So literally by the end of the week, I log all my victories, and victories are very small and large and medium, but I write them down. What happens is when you have that day that things don't go in your favor, that things are like, oh my God, you feel that things are caving in. I read my victory log. And you know what? All of a sudden, I can get a little cocky. All of a sudden, it's like, not bad, Rochelle.
Come
Like,
on.
go for it. You're okay.
Right.
You're not okay. You're better than okay. But we don't like this is, April, we're in the beginning of April. Do you recall your victory that you had in October? Not really. But now, if you made a mistake, I would put $1,000 on the table that you would remember that mistake. Everything about that mistake, it's almost like it's engraved in our soul. So
Still
why
on a
don't
permanent
we
record.
exactly your
It's on your
permanent
permanent record.
why
Exactly.
don't
I love it.
so why don't we engrave some of these victories? So if we have and it's the victory logs that allows me to take a risk, because I said, you know what, if I did this, if I take a risk, I can probably deliver on it because look at all my victories. Now, if I were to only pay attention to the mistakes that I made, that would increase my fear. I would be so panicked I wouldn't do anything, and then hence in would come in the Valium drip hooked up to me.
Yeah.
So what are we doing to ourselves? Are we focusing and not even exaggerating, acknowledging our victories, or are we scaring ourselves by only paying attention to an area that you might have made a mistake? And sometimes, Sean, you just brought it up, like something that we're dealing with is it could be a mistake we made in grade school.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, I didn't
It goes
read
deep.
well in first grade. All of a sudden, it's like, what do you mean you didn't read well in first grade? Oh my God. All of a sudden, the
You're
SAT scores
better than you
weren't what I
think you
thought.
are. Yeah, you're better
Well,
than you think you
Rochelle, you're talking about fear of failure. We're ingrained with that. That's part of the problem too. It's
Yeah.
not just the permanent record issue. It's
I think people need to learn it's okay to fail. I mean, failure.
exactly.
Look at
We need a
Einstein or look at
change.
Edison. How many times did Edison get it wrong before he got?
Exactly. My point exactly.
And
Right.
it's those number of
Yep.
failures that gets you to getting it right. But just
We need
have
we
mindset
need
of
to
not
be
quitting.
we need to accept that failure is a good thing, not a bad
Failure is
thing.
great. Learn from it, and it's a good
Right.
thing. Don't
think
learn
his-
from it, schmuck.
I think his quote was something like, I have somebody said you failed 10,000 times, and Edison said, I haven't failed 10,000 times. I've only found 9,999 ways it didn't work.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So, is that a failure, or was that and it's,
The
this really,
journey.
yeah. And this is where the lunatic part comes in, because, I think maybe we didn't know that this awaited us when we started our business in terms of the emotional journey. Maybe we did, but I think, when a lot of people tell us we're crazy or say, why would you do that? I think, it just brings up the question for me is like, if you knew that it was going to be like this, would you have done it anyway?
Yes.
Because we still
Yes.
continue to do it. We still continue to do it. So there's clearly a payoff for us. It's partly like Steve said, because, we enjoy working for ourselves. Working for another company is just not in our DNA, but there's also, like, you all answered yes, like, of course I would do it again. So like, people say we're crazy, like, maybe we are, and we still we still show up. So is it the impact, Rochelle? Is that what motivates you? I mean, is when things are like
I
really,
just think for all of us, I mean, Simon Sinek says it, the way, what's your why?
yeah,
You
why
need
are we doing it?
something that motivates us. And it's not something that's, short term. We need something, at least for myself. What am I striving for? That's number one. What's the impact that I can have on somebody? Like, what's the positive impact? And for me, that is so important, and it matters to me. So if in the moment things aren't 100%, I says, what, look at this company. When I started working with them, they were like, their plan and their strategy was prayer. Okay, we went from prayer to some guidelines, from guidelines to structure, from structure, and then you see that they started out like barely making it. And then I just had a client recently that just sold his company. And he did amazing. I was so excited. I can't even tell you, because when I first worked with him, he was like, I'm not going to make it till Friday. So there's such a level of satisfaction for myself of making a difference, and that people matter, and that you're there to support somebody else's journey if you can. And to me, that's so important. So on the days that are not 100%, on the days that aren't even, any percent, I mean, we've gone through some of those. I have to remember that, because that's what makes it important and doable. Because most days are not great. Most days there is a client that didn't pay on time. Most days there's something that didn't work itself out. Certain days you have to have that, difficult conversation. And through it all, I say two things. Number one, through it all, number one, it's doable. And number two, it's worth it.
Mhm.
I didn't say it was easy. I said it's
Right.
doable, and I think the sad thing is, I think the culture coming up now is that everyone expects it to be two other things. They expect it to be easy and quick.
Yep.
And if you expect something to be easy and quick, in my opinion, the chances of that succeeding long term is slim to none.
You're going to burn out really fast. You're going to flame out on that really fast. And you're just, because your expectations are out of alignment. Yeah.
So if you think
Yeah, I
it's
mean,
doable, it's
Yeah.
doable. It may not be quick, but it's doable. So if it's doable and it's important and it matters, at least for me, it keeps me going.
Go ahead,
so
Melih.
I'm gonna use a little reverse psychology here, because let's go back to this whole idea of fear of failure, right? On the permanent record. So if we think of fear of failure, that could also be part of what's causing us to be lunatics. In other words, we are not going to fail, right?
We don't get
So
sick. We go to
we
work
don't get
every day.
sick. We don't get sick. We wake up the next morning, we have our cup of coffee, and we are back at it, regardless of what is in front of us. And it's possible that there's that emotional psychology, right? Saying that I'm not going to fail. That's not an option for me. I'm not going to have anything on my permanent record, and therefore, I'm pushing forward, right? And so you never think of failure. You never think of that permanent record. It's not even in your
You're too busy
vocabulary.
thinking, what can you create? What can you invent?
Right.
What can you make?
It's not
What
even
vision
right.
can you make happen?
It's not. Those are not even options to think about. They're not even on the list.
No,
It's
but be
purely-
honest. Be honest. Do you ever get imposter syndrome? Do you ever feel like, wow, I'm not good enough?
How about 8 o'clock this morning?
Um,
Hello? Why wait?
But that's my point. That even though we
Hello?
get the same feelings that you do, 40 years later,
Right.
39
Yeah.
years later, I still get the imposter syndrome. But guess what? I am good enough. I just closed a deal literally an hour ago with a
Mhm.
company that is a lot like the one you're talking about, Rochelle, that really doesn't have a lot of direction. They need help badly. And I know I can help them. And it's one of the best things going to be for me is to see them grow, see them succeed, see them get systems and processes in place, have a structure. That's going to be phenomenal. I can't wait to work with them.
Exactly.
But had I given up a week ago or a couple of days ago and said, I'm not good enough to help these people, I wouldn't have a new client that I can now work with and help, and that'll just continue to go on the same path.
But it's not just you. Notice the impact you can make on that client. That client needs you. And the
Oh, yeah.
fact that you can support them in their, business journey and create some business, health and wealth for them. I just think that's such an honor, at least for myself. It's honor for all of us to be in the position to be able to do it. I mean, I believe it is. It's such an honor versus working with somebody else and asking for permission to do anything. I don't know about any of us. We're not good at asking for permission. We're good at leading and creating and moving
I
forward.
asked for forgiveness. What do
Yeah.
you mean? What permission?
I agree. I'm with you, Steve. That's that. I mean, let's say if there's something that we all learned early on, yeah, you ask for forgiveness. You don't ask for permission.
Just
I
want
mean,
to call out, we do have some live viewers. I don't know who they are because I can't see on my
All
phone.
right.
So
Okay.
the comments should be enabled. So if whether you're watching this on recording or watching it with us live, please chime in, share anything that resonates with you, or if there's a
Sure.
point or a point or a story that you want to chime in on. Who knows? We may have you as a future guest, as long as you're equally as crazy.
Crazy as we
so-
are.
Yeah, and
Are
so
you
like
calling me crazy? What do you mean?
100%, 100%. This brought up as you guys were talking, I was thinking, for myself, this business that we're in now, we're entering our 5th year. This is full transparency. This is the largest revenue business I've ever been a part of. I've had plenty of other successful opportunities in self-employment, and Rochelle can attest to this because she's seen the journey. And multiple times, I have these moments where she calls it the lights are flickering, where I just want to get out. Like, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. Like, the pain, the frustration and the pain is so great within me that something just wants to it'd be easier if we just walked away. And with this business now, we've got employees, we've got team, we've got the impact is growing so big. It's so much bigger than me. Something shifted in my body like this year, because I get those same feelings, but when I'm thinking and it's bigger than me, there's something bigger than me happening here. Then it just becomes a feeling I can work through. When it was just myself and I was able to stay small and I always thought there was an exit route or another option, I never grew as big as I could in terms of the company. And as a result, I never had the impact that I think we're having now. So that was all that was coming up for me. And I'm thinking, wow, so like perhaps the key to this all is, when we're getting kicked in the face over and over and over, all of us have said in some degree, we think about the people that we're helping, who's depending on us, who needs us, because ultimately there's a whole host of other things we could be doing. So there's a reason we're doing the thing that we're doing or building what we're building. And ultimately it's for the impact. And yes, the money is nice and the freedom is nice, but those are byproducts, I think. When you create more impact,
know
you get
what?
those things.
And in times when things aren't, I mean, Melih, when you were talking about in 2008, trust me, I don't think freedom was even on the table. You didn't feel free. I mean, when you're going through a very rough time, freedom wasn't what I was thinking of. As you say, you want to keep the lights on. So it's
Right.
not about freedom. It's about impact. Can I really serve that somebody else can do so much better based on what I can do? And when I'm connected to that, and I recognize that I make a difference, it allows that inner chatter to quiet and say, just get off my back. Let me just go forward. This may not be perfect, but it's okay. Let me just do one step at a time. This is doable. It doesn't mean it's easy, but it's doable. And when I keep speaking to that, it just makes the biggest difference.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, I mean, just to kind of go back to those days, right? So specifically 2009, specifically 2010. I mean, that's almost, don't I'm not gonna say it was a full 2 years, but because it wasn't, because by the time I got to Q4 of 2010, things started to get move in the right direction. But this idea of fear is nothing more than a noose around your neck. It's a mindset, right? I mean, you can't let that be what overwhelms you. You'll never get out of it, number one, and all you're going to do is drive yourself in a bigger hole. Back in those days, it was just nothing more than we keep pushing forward. There is no version that this company is down, and we weren't down. We weren't down to zero, number one. We had to let a lot of people go, and yes, we had to do it. Like specifically, I had to sit down and do work that I normally wouldn't do. Well, okay, guess what? Roll up your sleeves and get in there, right?
What you gotta do? You look like this guy. When that happens,
Yeah.
you end up like this guy again. And that's no good for anybody. Nobody should have this space.
Exactly.
I don't know, where is he? Get out of here.
I love that there's debris everywhere. Like he's escaping somewhere, and he's just like, get.
And like most entrepreneurs, if you look at everything he's got to do all around him,
yeah,
there's all these things that I got to take care of, and they're just like, you're not getting away from us. We're going to chase you down, and you still got all this stuff behind you. Thinking about 2008, you still had to take care of your employees. You still had to take care of, keeping the lights on, keeping the business running, inventing.
You're working on making sure your brand doesn't disappear, that it continues to stay relevant in the marketplace.
The mental fear that I put myself through, that God forbid, if my reputation is so important. The whole world's watching everything I'm doing, and nobody was watching me. I ended up at 8 million. I think my largest we got to was 8.5 million. So I mean, I wasn't like this big maka huge company, but you know what? In my mind, it mattered.
Yeah.
Let me tell you what I tell people. There are three things in business today. There's three sections that I call one section is your skill. No matter what you do, you better be good at your skill. The second section is business, because your skill is one thing, but if you don't understand business, boy, do you have a mamma mia situation going on. So under business, you've got to be good at sales and marketing and HR and insurance. I mean, that's the whole business. But here's the third. The third is your mindset. And people think that in general, the focus is the skill. Whatever I'm doing, I've got to be great at it. And I'm here to say it, no. The mindset is the most important, because the mindset supports the business supports the skill. The skill is almost irrelevant.
Yeah, you can teach anybody to do anything. You can't teach them to be anything, to be a certain way.
So the mindset is the most, so when I'm feeling, like, oh my God, overwhelmed, whatever it is, I look at that category and I said, where do I have to put my efforts? And as a knee-jerk reaction, it would be to put the efforts in the skill. Let me get better at something. And it's always 100% wrong. The effort goes into the mindset. How am I scaring myself that I can't move forward? What am I saying to myself? What do I need to double down on? That you're great, you're capable, you make it. What is that conversation that I need to say more and more and more, versus worrying about whatever the skill is? So it's the mindset that supports the business, because with the right mindset, you know how to take risks, you know how to invest, you know what you need to look into, and then the business supports the skill. And so many people have the other way around. They don't even know what I'm talking about when you say mindset.
Very well said. Yeah. Well, and coming out of, we talked about where we were coming from, like where our mindset gets shaped. So for some people, if they're coming out of a corporate job for 20 years and then starting a business, they have 20 years of a mindset shaped from going to work every day. In our case, if
protecting their job and
right, it's a totally different way of thinking.
All of that.
It's not wrong. It just doesn't fit when you're doing your own business. And then even if you've never worked in corporate, when you're growing up, all of these things we joke about with the permanent record in school, we all went to school at some level, and school shapes your mindset. And I've found, I don't know about you all, but there's so many things in school that I learned that actually work completely against what I need to run.
Oh, are you kidding? School ripped out my creativity.
Yeah. I
And that's
mean,
what you need to
like I used to be a teacher. I believe in education. I think it's important, but like there's so many things I've had to like throw on
unlearn.
my head and unlearn and learn a different thing. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I've gone as far as, and I'm not to push too much, but just a little bit. I wrote a book on mine.
Push it, promote. Let's
Just get
go.
up and drive. And drive is an acronym for determination, resilience, innovation, vigilance, and endurance. It's all about getting knocked down and getting back up again. It's about not
Yeah.
letting the world define who you are. If you're a brand new entrepreneur and you want to do something because you're good at it and you think you can monetize it, or you just want to you have a service that you just want to help somebody with, just remember to keep on driving. Keep on having the determination. Don't let anybody tell you that you can't. If that imposter pops in your head, let him rattle around all he wants. Just keep on going forward. And that's
Well,
kind of what I wrote the book about.
one of my mentors said, you can't steer a parked car. So you got like you literally
That's a
got to
good one.
drive, like the car has to be in motion.
I like that one.
Yeah,
You know, and if it's not, you can sit there and you know, you can exert a lot of effort, you know, trying to and you'll break a sweat.
Well, in the old days, we didn't have hydraulics. So actually, that's exactly what your face would look like trying to move it if you weren't moving.
Totally. Yeah, you got to stay in motion. Absolutely.
There's an interesting other fear, and it kind of flows in with some comments earlier, not specifically right now, but from earlier. This idea of fearing money, and I mean by lots more money than you're used to.
Mhm.
And I bring that up because I have a scenario right now that's going on with a prospect where they just got a lot of funding. Everybody in the company really has no clue what this level of money is. But what's really interesting is that the money that they're talking about, I don't want to get into all the details. We won't worry about that. But the money that they're talking about is actually not enough. And I'm
Is it
talking
ever
millions of
enough? Is it
dollars.
ever enough?
Well, I mean, I guess the question, right, you have to put enough into perspective, right? The question is, what's enough to reach your goal? Okay. In this case, the money that they raised is not enough to reach their goal. They're thinking that money is going to come generate all this money, this revenue, so they can get to their goal. And I'm like, well, having been in business for so long and haven't seen the ups and downs and the failures and the successes of of so many other companies, what they have is not enough, and they are not they shouldn't rely on that hopium revenue to walk in the door. Okay. But what's my point though is, let's backtrack. The point I was trying to make is we have to keep in mind what a lot of money is, right? Just because, let's just throw out some ideas. Let's just walk in the door and all of a sudden you have $5 million in the account in your company. Is that really a lot of money?
Depends on your
Right?
expenses. Depends on
It
your
depends,
overhead.
right?
It depends on
Exactly.
a
It
lot
depends
of
on your
things.
expenses. It depends on you planning for the future. It depends on you reinvesting into your
On
company.
the market,
It depends
on COVID, on or so many different things.
That's why it's so great for any company, regardless of your size or whatever. That's where outside consultants come in, because they can look at something, shorter term and longer term. And the main reason why you have the consultants, and here's where businesses get a little funky, is that they don't have an emotional connection to the business. They have a realistic and they have a rational perspective. So they're looking at it, more from a dollars and cents and a strategy. They're not emotionally connected. They didn't spend 2 years not sleeping, eating Cheerios in order to get started. There's no now I see that because I work with a lot of family-owned businesses. And we've got a similar situation because the family-owned businesses, it is so the emotion and it not only is the emotion integrate in the business, but the whole family dynamic. So you've got it even worse. So if you don't fix this argument right now in the business,
Yeah,
there's no
right.
Thanksgiving dinner. You know, the firstborn is not going to be named after the grandfather. You know, there's so much that's intertwined because there's an emotional connection to the business. And very often some of the decisions we make, we have to say what's the best opportunity for the business, and can we step aside from the emotion? And that's why I think all of us in our own lane is very valuable, because we do not bring the emotion of the business. We bring the this, you know, the meat and potato, not the, you know, we can't.
The unbiased view. You know, you can't read the label from within the box. You can
Yeah.
try, but as long as that box there is closed, you're not reading the label. That's all there is to it.
I heard something years ago that for me was very valuable. When emotions are high, intelligence is low.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. It's great.
Totally.
Exactly.
Very profound.
100%.
And that's why
no
you
doubt.
need somebody outside can do two things. Number one, they don't have the emotional connection. And number two, ideally, they can bring down your emotion.
Totally.
And
Yeah.
the key is when emotions are high, intelligence is low. And that's where things can get a little funky in business based on those decisions.
100%. So
Agreed.
somehow we've been speaking for 45 minutes. I want to be
I know.
mindful of our time and our viewers' time. If you've made it this far, thank you. We appreciate you. You've watched history in the making, literally creating something that didn't exist yesterday. This is what entrepreneurship is all about. We are going to be back next week, and there's a whole host of things we can talk about. We started to delve into the topic of money, and I personally, I would love to dig a little deeper into that next week, and because
Let's go for it.
I think that is a great dovetail off of the fear conversation, and I think money carries so much energy with it. Sometimes positive, sometimes negative, and talk about mindset. Whew. So I'd love to throw that on the table. Let's wrap up here, and I would love if each of us just took 30 seconds on kind of your key takeaways from today. Like, I'm doing this too because I want to learn something and be around other people that are on the journey with me. So key takeaways, key things you want to share as we wrap up today and head into the week ahead.
I mean, I'll start. Although
No,
business,
go ahead.
although
Ladies
that
first.
we are lunatics, it is absolutely doable and it's rewarding.
Yeah. Doable. And then you said worth it. That's kind of the
Rewarding.
one for me, rewarding. Melih?
Your permanent record doesn't exist.
No such thing.
No such thing.
Yes, sir. Steve, how about you?
You know, for me, I think I'm going to get a lot out of this just by listening to you guys, quite honestly. You know, I have the mindset of ABL, always be learning. And whether I'm learning AI or I'm learning, you know, how to help a company grow and scale, or work with a family business and get the people dynamic right, which is always fun. I'm learning just from the three of you, you know, and your life experience, your business experiences. Well, we all know each other. I don't know everything about you yet. So for me, this is a journey of learning through other people's, other entrepreneurs' experiences as well.
Yeah, and
Good
for
thing.
me, well said. For me, this last hour has just kind of reinforced for me that the real joys of entrepreneurship and the real growth happens from the actual doing of the thing. And so when I think about, like, let's imagine this conversation never happened and all of these little nuggets that like I absorbed, and I'm going to take all these little micro actions based on the things that I absorbed, some of them unconsciously. And so much gold here. You know, I feel inspired from speaking for an hour. And so I just think about, wow, like, when in doubt, launch the thing, do the thing, move, drive, go. That's kind of like my big takeaway. And so it's been a pleasure. So we look forward to it next week. So if you're watching
Absolutely.
you're watching on LinkedIn, this will be an event that will be scheduled. You can connect with all of us on LinkedIn. You can see who the speakers are. Wherever you're watching this, be sure to subscribe, follow us on social media. And you can always reach out to us via direct message on LinkedIn. I'll also make sure that we have websites in the comments so that everybody can see below who everyone is and the best way to get in touch with those folks. And as we keep going, we'll make this better and make it even easier for you to reach us. But for today, we got it done, gang.
Yes.
Well done.
Yay.
Well done. Thanks for joining us on Business Lunatics, everybody. We will see you next week.